tonight, oh great, yeah. Tonight, the second coalition all candidates meeting is Loyalist-Cataraqui. And I should just make a little shout out that tomorrow in person is Williamsville at 7 p.m. in St. Luke's Church Hall. But let's get on with tonight's meeting. My role is just simply to introduce our moderator, and we're really delighted and honored to have Harvey Schachter take charge of the meeting for us. Harvey Schachter, as many of you know, has been writing on civic issues for Kingston Life since its first issue more than 2 decades ago, including election scorecard roundups for voters for every election since the Amalgamation Council of 1997. Before that, he was editor of the Kingston Whig Standard, winning national newspaper awards for both his columns and his signed editorials. He is a twice-a-week columnist on management and the workplace for the Globe and Mail and lives in Loyalist-Cataraqui. So thank you very much, Harvey, and have a wonderful meeting, everyone.
Thank you. That last part may be the most important. So, so we're going to hear from 2 candidates who have kind of done us all a big favor by coming out and offering their service to the community and to serve as our counselor. We had a draw, and Jackie will speak first. Jacqueline Collier and Paul Chavis will speak next.
Shaves, please.
Shaves, okay. We were supposed to prepare that and I forgot to ask. And they're going to both introduce themselves and talk a bit about why they're running and what they intend to do for the community. After that, I will ask on behalf of the coalition 1 question, a very general question to get us kind of an icebreaker question, you might say, to get them rolling and get you rolling. And then we will take questions from the audience. We hope to do this in about an hour or so. The questions from the audience, we're going to start and give precedence to those people who live in the district. And we will ask you to ask the question through chat or by raising your hand, but also that you be within the district initially. At some point, we might extend it beyond that. And if we really run out of questions, I'll ask them myself. So with that, Jackie, you want to introduce yourself and why you're running and what you're going to do?
Thank you so much, Harvey. And I'm just going to take a moment. First and foremost, it's an honor to be at this debate, especially with it moderated by yourself. Thank you, Christine, and everyone from KCC. Thank you for doing this right across every district. I mean, what a beautiful service to our city. I'm really grateful for that. And for everybody who is here, I mean, look at all of these names on the screen. You are all people who love your city and love your district. And it's so meaningful that you have taken time out of your evening to be here. Thank you for that. And same to you, Mr. Chaves. I know, I've been pounding the pavement like you for so many months now, canvassing every day and blisters on my feet. And I know what it takes to do this, to be a candidate in this race. And it's a really meaningful thing to do. And I really respect, you running as well. So thanks to everybody. So I've been going door to door for so long. Many of you might already know this, but I am on 2 City of Kingston committees currently. So I am on our Housing and Homelessness Advisory Committee, where I am chair of that committee. I'm also on our Community Safety and Wellbeing Committee with the city. I am chair of Habitat for Humanity. I'm vice president of the Boys and Girls Club and Big Brothers Big Sisters. I'm also co-chair of Kingston's Kids First. I have a lot of passion for doing good in our community. I know that it's important that we all work together and that we raise each other up. I've been doing this type of thing since I was 12. I started when I was 12. I was a captain of the Kidney Foundation and in one of the areas in Ottawa at a time. To their credit, I don't think they realized I was 12 whatsoever. I was just a wonderful volunteer. And so I've continued that throughout my life. I really just think that service to others is so critical. I know what I'm capable of. I have a really strong voice and a compassionate voice. I think it's really important that everybody realizes that when you're a counselor, it's not about you. It isn't about me. It's about all of us. It is about all of the constituents that we are serving. And that is so important. I love governance. Obviously, you've heard all of those boards and committees that I'm part of. I love governance. Strategic planning is a forte of mine, and it is so critical. We need a critical thinker on council. There is so much that comes before counselors. And it's very important that we have an open mind, that we know how to do research, that we do our homework. We read what has been put in front of us. We ask the right questions and provide the right oversight. It's a big job. We have to be really respectful and supportive of those that are working together with us. I am so eager to do that type of work for our city and for our district. It is a complete honor for me just to be running in this election, you know, and it's something I'll remember my entire life through. I think I have everything it takes to do the job exceptionally well, and a strong background to be able to represent us and be devoted to us. Thank you.
Perfect timing. Thank you very much. Paul, do you want to share with us your background?
Yeah, just give me a minute here. So a little history about myself. I was born in the small town of Strathroy of Ontario, just outside London. I moved to Kingston with my family in 1969. I've grown up here since and gone to school in Kingston. I graduated from Queen's with a degree in economics. I moved to this district in 1993. I've lived here ever since. I'm a single parent of 2 children whom I have every other week and raised here. I will soon retire after a 31-year career with Correctional Service Canada. I have a sense of community and looking out for others. I was involved in both my local union and health and safety committee for the majority of my career with corrections. I've been very involved with the community. I coordinated several teams for the big bike ride for heart and stroke, coordinated collection for canned tabs for Brett Babcock and to assist his campaign for tabs for chairs for Sick Kids Hospital. I was also a board member for Limestone Credit Union. I coordinated the Partners for Life with Canada Blood Services with fellow employees, and I'm still a donor. I coached for the Kingston Clippers for 10 years, 2 teams for 8 years. I was on my children's elementary school council for 12, where I was a bingo volunteer and then became a bingo volunteer coordinator. Organized 2 soccer camps for the students, became the Literacy Week coordinator, inviting local celebrities, politicians, sports figures, and frontline workers to come to school in order to read to the different classes. I'm currently on the Holy Cross School Council, have been for 3 years and will continue for at least another 3. I've coordinated and participated in many pitching Kingston events in the area. I've organized and will continue to organize clothing and food drives for St. Vincent de Paul. I also participated in the Ride for Refuge yesterday, Saturday, October 1st, in order to help raise funds to help build a 20-unit tiny home community for unhoused veterans. I'm fostering animals for both the Kingston Humane Society and the Kingston Humane Animal Rescue. And my daughter and I, we also volunteer as pet cuddlers at the Kingston Humane Society. As mentioned, I moved into this district 29 years ago. I did this as the township had a reputation for having better services. This changed with amalgamation and not for the better. The city's attention is focused, appears to be directed elsewhere. I've heard from many of you your frustration of being ignored and forgotten. I've also felt this frustration for some time, and is one reason why I'm running for council. This district and you deserve a strong voice who will speak up and advocate on your behalf. I am that person. I've gained my voice and I'm confident to use it. As councillor, I work for you, not the city. I've seen a lot of change and development. Midland Park, Woodhaven, Cataraqui North, Westbrook have all expanded and are still growing. I've experienced the same issues, concerns as most: traffic safety, pedestrian safety, school safety, sidewalk safety, and doctor shortage. I have a degree in economics. I worked in the finance department when I started with corrections, doing audits and accounting.
Please
Finance
wrap
is
up.
Pardon?
Please wrap up. It's 3 minutes.
Okay, finance and budgets and deficits are an important issue with me. I believe the city needs to be more fiscally responsible. Our city needs to choose priorities carefully. We must restrain taxes and avoid debt. One of the main roles of city council is to represent and advocate on behalf of residents. In order to do this correctly, counselor needs to be able to ask the right questions to understand the situation, present the case to city staff, and if needed, question the answers given. I don't
Okay.
accept the answer.
Let's end
Well-
it there. Okay, let's be fair on the 3 minutes and just please try and respect the time. We're going to go on to the next question, and that's from the coalition. What we're asking, and it sort of takes off on where we were ending with each of your talks. What is that you've been out knocking on doors, talking to people, listening to them? What's the biggest issue that you are hearing from constituents in this district? And what steps are you going to take to address this if you are elected? And I'm going to turn this to Paul first and then Jackie. So what have you been hearing and how will you address it?
Well, the biggest issue that I've been hearing from constituents is safety, traffic, pedestrian, school, and sidewalk safety. I've heard concerns about roads being used as racetracks. This is not acceptable, not with the number of children who live in this district. The city has set up a school pedestrian safety working group after the tragedy earlier this year at Mother Teresa. This committee brought forward a number of recommendations, which have been approved by City Council. There's currently a pilot project in both the Westwood and Strathcona Park neighborhoods, making them community safety zones. Safety zone features include a 40-kilometer speed limit throughout the school's neighborhood and reduced to 30 kilometers near schools, as well as speed radar cameras. The working group also recommended a number of pedestrian crossings. Many are scheduled to be located within our district. Some of these pedestrian crossing locations include Cat Woods at the park entrance, Birchwood and Brackenwood, Birchwood and Peachwood, and Princess and Rosanna. As councillor, I would like to ensure these recommendations are put into action. However, we cannot stop there. There are safety concerns in Westbrook regarding safety on Westbrook Road. There's a project to redo the road and add sidewalks in order to add pedestrian safety. I not only want to ensure this gets done, but also demand street lighting and pedestrian crossings are installed at both Westbrook at Sproul and Heath to increase pedestrian safety and especially for children and families walking to Holt Grove School. We have a new school being built at the north end of Woodhaven. I've heard concerns regarding pedestrian safety crossing Cat Woods. I would like to see a pedestrian crossing installed at Holden and Woodhaven at a minimum. I believe a sidewalk needs to be installed along Princess Street. I've been in contact with city staff and this is a proposed project. I want to ensure this also gets completed. Sidewalks are also needed along Midland Ave, north of Cat Woods Drive, which is a busy street and has 4 bus stops along this portion. Pedestrians need a safe place to walk. I started by stating a number of roads are being used as racetracks, which puts the safety of everyone at risk, especially children. Our police force is understaffed and unable to patrol the whole city. I would like to recommend the use of speed radar cameras along a number of our busy streets. Creekford, Rosanna, Woodhaven, Holden, Bay Ridge, Cedarwood, Crossfield, Atkinson, Anderson, and Augusta, just to name a few. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Jackie. So same question about what you've been hearing and what you intend to do if elected to do something.
Thank you so much, Harvey. And thank you, Paul. That I couldn't agree more. I would say that the #1 thing that we hear when we're going door to door is safety concerns. People are so worried, not only about themselves and their own families, but their neighbors and throughout the district. It's like the Indy 500 on so many streets, and that can't stay. We have to make sure that people feel safe and that they know when their kids are cycling or playing or if families are out walking their dogs that it's safe. Now, I'm not going to redo the list of everything that Paul just said. I think that we might get some Zoom fatigue fairly quickly. So what I'll do is I'll say that on the broader scale, I would say a #1 issue that I've been hearing is our healthcare crisis. It is a massive issue. We have so many families in Kingston, tens of thousands that don't have family physicians, and that's putting downward pressure on our ERs. This also, this impacts specialists. It has a domino effect. And so, I would like to propose that we continue programs that we have to advocate and we have to look to bring in more family physicians. I also think we need to look at nurse practitioners as an option. This was something that was brought up to me. I had a wonderful conversation with a family who she is a nurse practitioner, and she let me know how many patients that they can help as well. So we need to start thinking in these ways and making sure that we implement programs like this. There's so much that we need to do. And you know, I would say from the perspective of our aging population, we need to create a seniors plan. It is so critical. The way that things are right now, it can't stay. We have not been planning properly for this yet. And this is well beyond Kingston. But in Kingston, I would like to see us become leaders in this. We need to make sure that as our seniors are aging, they are being properly taken care of and that their health needs are being met. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Okay, so we're now open for questions from the floor, so to speak, or from the screen. And I see Diane Aziz. So why don't you kick it off, Diane, with a question?
Thank you so much, Harvey, and thank you, Paul and Jackie. I volunteer with homeless and poor people, and it is unbelievable to me in our rich city that we still have 250 people who are without homes, and we have many, many poor people who are living on the edge, choosing between feeding their families and paying their rent. I would like each person, each candidate, to say what approach they would use if elected in leading council to make homelessness and underhoused issues the #1 priority in Kingston. Thank you.
Okay, Jackie, you'll be first with 90 seconds.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Diane, for everything that you do in our city to help. It's so critical. It's important that everybody gets involved. What a great, excellent question as well. We have to do more. As it is right now, I am on our City of Kingston's Housing and Homelessness Advisory Committee. You know, I see the numbers. I think that it's something that we can solve. I don't think that we're looking at a crisis that can't be solved. And not only that, I think that we need to shift gears from temporary management to permanent solutions. You know, it's so important. And I will say, you know, through the work that I've been doing on that committee, we need to increase our communication among each other with our community partners. We need to raise them up as well. You know, so one thing is, through that committee, we did put together a working group earlier this year. And that working group was to evaluate the terms of reference and the mandate of the committee. And a few things came out of that. One was we needed to ensure that we have better communication with those that serve this community. And so we've actually, one thing that I had requested is that we make an annual meeting where any service provider in the housing and homelessness sector can come to this meeting and present to the advisory committee, to any counselors present, to the city staff present, as to what they're experiencing. So are they
Please wrap it up.
Demand? Are they, you know, do they need better funding? How can we better help? So that meeting is really important. We're going to make sure that we actually get the information, that people are being heard, that these organizations that help also hear each other and can network together as well. That synergy.
Thanks very much. Okay, Paul, same question about homelessness.
Diane, thank you for that question. It's one of the big topics that is on my agenda. It's one of the top 5, and this is not something new. It hasn't just popped up. It's been going on for quite some time. And I'm someone of action. That's why yesterday I participated in the Ride for Refuge, which is an organization that's going to be building 20 tiny home community for veterans, to which there's about 40 or 50 homeless within Kingston. I would like to see the tiny home project that we have, which is being moved back to Olympic Harbor, find a permanent home. I thought they were going to be moving to the Rideau Marina and be there for about 3 years, have some permanent status for them. This is an issue. I was very disappointed when council voted against allowing encampments on public property. because they didn't have a plan B. They didn't have a plan for where these individuals were supposed to go. We have individuals who have mental issues, addiction issues, and we have families who are homeless. There's a number of different locations on Montreal Street that are vacant. I would like to find out who owns them and if they're brownfield, and if we can spend money with another site to aid in the cleanup of that. I think we can do that for this as well. My idea and vision, and I would like to get developers or someone to assist in this, or the city can do it on its own, is to build a couple of
90
low rent
seconds.
motel so we can house these, because a lot of these individuals don't want to go to shelters because they don't feel safe there. So a mini hotel with 100 units or so they can have a room, a washroom themselves, and then have another unit for families so they can feel safe. They're not around the addiction issue, and have a common area where they can make their meals and have programs. That's what I envision. So I would like to propose when I am councillor.
Thanks very much. Okay, are there any other questions? And I forgot to restate that we prefer at this stage that the questions come from people within the district, though the questions don't have to be about the district. So anybody, I thought I saw a hand raised before.
Harvey, there's a couple of questions in the chat. Can I read out
Sure,
first
yeah.
from Denise? To each candidate, what will you do to involve or engage residents in the decision-making process in the city?
Okay, so I think first on this will be Paul.
Well, Denise,
And
thanks.
if I can say, I'm going to
Yep.
tell you when it's 60 seconds because we're going past my 90. Okay, so when I
okay.
say 60, not 30.
Okay. Denise, thanks for the question. I believe in being engaged with community. When I was a local president, I did the exact same thing at meetings. I shared a lot of information. I do that constantly now and have in the past in regards to a number of community Facebook groups. What I envision having and continue to do is keep sharing that information. I want to have, and I got to see the details about this, having quarterly town halls, especially when there's important issues which comes up in city council. I would like to have polls, which can be done through different media aspects in order to get the ideas and comments from the residents of this district. I'd also like to make up a newsletter so I can share information. Information sharing is very important. In order to do this right, we have to work at this as a team. It's not just me. It's not all about me. It's about all of us. We all have ideas, and we will all make this district better together. Thank you.
That's great. Okay, Jackie.
Thank you. So, I have been watching councillors in other municipalities for a while. I've actually registered on many different newsletter lists for a few years. I've been really curious to know how to do it really well. So I'm extremely well familiar with how others have been doing it, and I want to implement some of that. So I would be doing a seasonal newsletter that is mailed out throughout our district. And then I would be hosting on the first Thursday of every month an open house in order to be able to have anybody who wants to come and speak with me to be able to do so. I think it's really important that we communicate with each other and that constituents know their councillor is there for them, that you're the boss, constituents are the boss. And so I'm really eager to be able to open up those lines of communication in those ways. And then to harness the power of technology. I mean, we have this incredible ability, like KCC has just shown us, to bring so many people
60
together.
seconds, keep going.
Thank you, to bring so many people together like this. So we have to continue to harness this type of ability through Zoom. Through our social media platforms, that's a great way for people to be able to communicate as well. And keep in touch, and it's so personable. So I'll look to do every one of those options, and then to evaluate amongst my constituents, what else do you want? How else can we keep in touch with each other? Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. I'm going to go to Melinda because that was the hand that I saw up right at the start. So Melinda, you have a question? If you can unmute yourself.
So the question regarding the housing, We all know that there's a problem, but how is this going to be funded? Why are improvements such as the train being funded out of the city budget and not other ways? So we need funding, and how are you going to do that that benefits everybody without raising property tax?
Okay, so how do we fund this with not raising property taxes? Jackie, you're first on this.
Thank you so much for this, Melinda. I mean, there's no question we cannot raise property taxes right now. As I'm going around door to door, I'm meeting a lot of families who are struggling. Housing affordability is a big deal, you know, and we know that there are different things that we can do here. One, we have such a lack of supply, and an overwhelming demand. So we need to work with our community partners. It is critical for us to understand that as a city, that we need to work with our community partners in order to increase our supply. We have to get to the roots of the problem. It is so critical that we get to the roots of the problem. And we have several community partners that are working at this, whether we're speaking to just housing in general, or whether we are speaking about, you know, housing affordability. We need to have affordable housing for our families in Kingston. And so it really is about working together in order to do that. And there are different, you know, I think that there are different ways that we can do this without ever raising taxes. So.
Okay, Paul, your thoughts on this?
Melinda, thank you for the question. I mentioned my little project, making a sort of a low rent motel operate from tents. I've been sharing this information with this proposal with residents. I had one individual who was in the construction. He asked for another pamphlet of mine because he believed that his employer would be willing to participate and chip in for this and do some work. That's what we need to reach out for, to see if we have developers, contractors who are willing to be part of the solution in helping this out. We also can reach out to both the federal and provincial government for funding. This is a very important issue. People need a place to stay that's affordable. The provincial government got rid of rent control. That is one of the major issues that's occurring on here as well. Rent is going through the roof. There's also apartment, when developers make apartments, the city has a requirement to recommend 25% of those units to be affordable, 80% of market value. That is something as a councillor, I want to recommend and demand from developers to provide, because that will help out the market. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. I'm going to take a question from Paul Rose that's in the chat, and it's I'll read it out. Recently, residents in Westbrook took it upon themselves to do a tree survey regarding damage to city park trees. This has been published publicly along with survey results from residents on what they want done to stop the tree damage by city maintenance, mowing and trimmer services. How can you help ensure that city park trees are no longer damaged and killed by city park services, saving taxpayer dollars and improving the city forest canopy citywide? So any thoughts on that? Paul, you're first.
Paul, thank you for that. Environment is another major issue. The city declared a climate crisis a number of years ago, and I want to see them move forward more on this. And your research is very important in regards to what's going on with our trees. Trees are very important to our canopy and the environment. We have to ensure that what we plant grows. And I'd be willing to speak with you more and anyone else within this area to hear what you have to say and how we can improve this. And then take it to the city department to see how we can change the way we do things. Because if what we're doing now is part of the problem, then we need to refocus, reevaluate, and change how we do it. So I'll be willing to be engaged with those who involved in order to help this no longer be a problem. Thank you.
Thanks. Jackie.
Thank you so much. Yes, I agree. We have to be engaged. And when we have community leaders like yourself, Paul, who, Mr. Rose, what you've done there is, important work, and you're bringing this kind of thing to light. So once that happens, the city needs to be able to evaluate what is going on. I believe in increasing the tree canopy across our city in every available green space that we can. I'm a big fan of the city offering trees at even a reduced price to residents, taking every opportunity we can to increase that tree canopy. And you know what they say, the best time to plant a tree was yesterday, and the second best time is today. And we should make sure that that we're doing what we can. Thank you.
Thanks. I never heard that quote. That's a lovely quote. We have a question from Scott Darling to each candidate. What specific skill sets and expertise are you bringing to the table, and what will make you stand out on council? Jackie?
Thank you so much. I'm so happy you've asked. I mean, you know what? I didn't think to say this in the last question, but for example, with Habitat for Humanity, we're working together with city as a partner in order to build tiny homes and affordable homes, townhomes at Shannon Park. I've actually gone to some of my private contacts, and we've built 4 tiny homes now. Just aside, we're not, it's not all over the news, but this work is happening, and so it's really important that we realize, each of us as citizens, how can we, talk to our contacts, and how can we all volunteer and get together to improve these situations. I am the type of person who can bridge everyone together. I'm really good at that. I am a strong leader. I have a strong voice. I am efficient and expedient. When I host my board meetings and committee meetings, it's so important to me that everybody feels engaged, and that the meetings are efficient, and that they run efficiently. So, I think, and especially, when it comes to council, I want decisions to be arrived at without delay, and to be fair, and to be inclusive for all. I bring all of my experience and all of my leadership skills to the table. And I also believe that, I'm a servant leader, and that's just who I am. And I think it's one of the most critical roles for me in my life, as well as being a mom to my daughters. So, I think I've got a lot of the right skill set in order to be able to really tackle all of these issues. I listen extraordinarily well. It's so important to me to be able to communicate, to listen, to take the notes,
I have to wrap
and
up.
then to action on those items. And that is what I do in every single role I have. And it's why I've made it to the top in every one of those roles. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Paul, skill set.
Scott, thank you. Well, I have an economics degree and from Queens. I worked in the finance department corrections for a number of years. So I have the skill sets there in regards to the budgets and deficits and finances, which I want to make sure it's under control. After working 31 years in Corrections Canada, you need to have some form of people skills in order to survive there. And that's what I bring to the table. For one, I want to be able to work with other councillors and city staff in order to get things done. Things tend to get stuck on paper or in the thinking process. I want to move things along. I also want to change the way we think. We do a lot of Band-Aid solutions. I want to do long-term. A number of our issues, we've talked about some: housing, homelessness, doctor shortage, the environment. They've all been around for some time, and they're not going to be solved with Band-Aids. We need long-term solutions and planning, and we need to be able to reevaluate them at certain intervals of time so we don't reset. One of the main functions for a councillor is to represent, to advocate. I have 20 years experience to do that on the union. I've done that. I've even done it with my wardens, and you have to be able to do it in the right way because you still work with them. I still get along with my warden. He gave me advice when he found out I was running for council. He said, "You'll be suited for that." And he gave me some advice on how to do campaign. Time. I'm retiring this year. My children are older. This is the right time for me. I have the time to advocate, to spend time, to do the research, to read the reports in order to make the proper decisions. I also have a voice. I gained that voice, and I have no problem using it to represent everyone here and for the best interest of this district, for Kingston and the residents of this area. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, we have a question that was sent directly to Christine, but beforehand, I failed to see a hand raised on Heather's iPad. So if she could raise a question. Diane, I see your hand, but there's a couple before you, but you can take your hand down. So, so Heather.
Yes. So I wanted to ask Jackie, as she has been a spokesperson and face of Tamarack Homes for so long, I'm just wondering, how can you be impartial when it comes to development? Because you've been involved in the housing industry for so long. How can you be impartial?
Thank you so much for asking that. It's such an important question because you can't have conflict. Now, everybody else that's on council has a job. And so through anybody's personal or professional roles, there's always going to be a conflict. Now, when it comes to Tamarack or any of the group of companies that fall under the Taggart Group of Companies umbrella, I would be recusing myself. I will not be a part of those discussions. So there is no conflict there. And that goes for any member of council who has any conflict. That's normal. So this is not something that I'm worried about. And actually, far from it, I think it's really critical going forward that we have somebody on council who understands responsible development. It is different from just development. We need my level of expertise on council to be able to address the issues. It's so important. So far from being a conflict, I would say it's an asset, and it's an asset we need. Thank you.
Paul, would you want to comment on that? Perhaps even suggest if you have any conflicts that you want to alert us to?
Yes, please. I don't have any conflicts. I'm retiring. We don't have any dealings with the Corrections Canada. I don't rent out. I don't work for the city, and I never work for a developer. So I'm free to speak on any motion which comes before council, including development. Development's one of our biggest topics that goes through council, and we need to have a voice to demand things from developers. There needs to be a balance between environment and affordable housing, and you can't have that if you don't have a councillor that's willing to speak up in regards to that. I'm willing to ask and demand, because we're talking about affordable housing. The city has a recommendation of having 25% of all units in apartments to be affordable. I'm willing to request that. If they want all their variances of height, density, and everything else, then it's a negotiation, which I've been doing for a very long time as a union rep. If you want this, then I want that. I want trees not to be cut down. I want trees to be planted and maintained. I want affordable
30 seconds left.
suites. So I want 25%. If we got that from every developer that made an apartment building in this town, I think we could solve some of our issues with people not able to afford housing. And if they can afford an apartment, then they have more money for other things, necessities such as food and shelter and clothing. Thank you.
Thank you. Christine.
Yes, Peter Burbidge sent me a text with his question. What position would you take if the city is asked to support UBI, that is Universal Basic Income? Thanks.
Paul, you're first on this one.
Well, that depends. Well, we need more information on that. It depends what level it's set at. I would have to do the research and do consultation to ensure that the correct amount is affordable for everyone. Maybe I can get some clarification as to the exact question that Peter's looking for, because right now it's very vague and it's hard for me to give an answer on. Christine?
I'm afraid I don't have anything more than what Peter has sent me. So
Would you be able to repeat the question?
it's just, what position would you take if the city is asked to support Universal Basic Income?
Sounds like a general motion of support.
I wouldn't be able to say right now. I would need more information. I can't give an answer without being properly informed and educated on the situation, and that would depend on the level that the province is setting. If it's too low, no, I'm not gonna support that, because people need a proper level in order to survive and live on. to support themselves and their families. So it would have to be a minimum.
Okay, thanks very much. Jackie, your thoughts on this?
Thank you. It's a really important discussion and it's a complex issue. And I would say for me, I would be going back to my constituents. I would want to be, you know, as a counselor, it's really important that we understand that the decision is not really what I think. It is about what my constituents think and what they want. And so I would be going back to my constituents on something that was like that, really major like that, despite, you know, that I might have feelings one way or another. I would be making sure that I do what is in line with what our citizens in Kingston want. Thank you.
Thanks. So next on my list are two people who have asked a question before. So if anybody who hasn't asked a question but is in the district wants to quickly raise their hand, I'm going to let you sneak in beforehand. Not hearing, we're going to go to Paul Rose, who says he would appreciate their thoughts on the tannery lands decision and how you would have voted if you had been on council and had been a party to that decision. So this was the recent decision on the tanneries, and Jackie, you're first.
Thank you so much. So what a great question. And it's such an important topic. You know, it blends a lot. There's a lot of talk about climate change, and, you know, climate change is not a subjective or opinion discussion. It's a fact, it's real. But we also have to recognize that the Davis Tannery lands, that's 37 acres of contaminated land. The land is contaminated with heavy metals, chromium, mercury, and lead. The trees that are on that land are contaminated. The wildlife that is there is contaminated. There's worries about their migratory patterns even. And we have homeless encampments happening on that contaminated land. So, you know, I think that we need to be able to look at facts and look at science and remediate that land properly. It needs to be done. You know, I think, you know, that those would be my thoughts. We have to remediate that land properly, and we have to make sure. I mean, if somebody said to me today, you know, don't remediate it properly and you know, have your children live on that land, I would say no, thank you. So, you know, I think science and fact are really critical when we're talking about heavy metal contamination on land like that. Thank you.
Thanks, Jackie. Paul, what would you do on the tannery lands? What would you have done?
I would have voted no for several reasons. It's not just about the environment. It was pegged as the great resolve to our housing shortage in the downtown area. It was going to take a while before it even got started because we would have to move all that contaminated land. But they had 4 towers, about 16 to 1,800 units, and the developer was offering 100 units to be affordable. I did the math. That's 5%. That's not the 25% that the city looks for. So if they want to be part of the solution, it should have been 25% of that. So it should have been close to somewhere between 400 and 500 units to be 80% of market value. So that's one. They weren't cleaning up that land. They were just moving it. So what are we doing with that? We can go and contaminate a different area. The developer also said it can't be cleaned up. We had a group who stated they knew a company that could clean it up naturally. Why not give them a shot to see if it's possible? I would have done that. I would have actually made a bet with the developer and said, I'm not voting for this for these reasons. How about this? You say it's guaranteed you can't clean it up. Allow this company from Montreal, try to do it naturally. And if they can't do it, I'll vote yes. If they can do it and they clean it up, give the land back to the city and we'll do something with it. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Diane?
Thank you. There are a number of members of council, and I would like you to say how you would work to bring our issues a voice at council when there are so many competing priorities with council members. I think my question goes back to the original question about leadership. How do you ensure that our concerns are brought forward given the competing concerns from your fellow council members. Thank you.
Okay, Paul, you're first on this one.
Diane, thank you. I've been in that leadership role for quite some time. I've been local president for a number of terms, 3-year terms on executive. I've been on national and regional committees. I've gone to conferences and conventions. I've negotiated with my warden on a number of different topics and brought issues up there. As I mentioned, people skills. I want to work with the different councillors and city staff with the correct information. I've already been working with some councillors and other candidates. We have some similar views, and even if we don't, we can agree to disagree. But it's a matter of presenting the case forward and making the best case, which is knowledge, information, stats, and that's where consulting with the residents of this district with their concerns and information. There's many knowledgeable people that live in this district, which I want to use for the benefit of everyone. So that's how I would do it. And like I said, I've already been working with some councillors and city staff. So I already have that leg up and I have that experience in order to benefit the residents of this district. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Jackie.
What an excellent question, Diane. I am on 2 City of Kingston committees currently, so I'm very familiar with the process. I am on with councillors, and so I'm familiar with the process and boots on the ground. I think that working together is so important, but also what binds us together is so much more than whatever divides us. And, you know, I think that, yes, there can be competing interests, but from having watched this same all candidates meeting for the Lakeside districts, their key priorities and their #1 issues were the same as what we've brought up here tonight for our district. So, you know, I don't think that it will be surprising when we get there to find out, you know what, we do have similar goals and we need to achieve together, you know, how we can make our communities healthier, safer. How can we make our city a more thriving, vibrant place for our people and for our businesses? We need to address housing affordability. And these are topics that they're not divisive. People want this, you know, it's, and I would say it's 9 out of 10 constituents would agree as well. So maybe more. So I do think it's really important that we find our common ground. I mean, I'm a well-established leader in our community. And when
Please wind up.
I mean, thank you. I mean, the community of Kingston, you know, and I think it's just important that we understand, even when those that don't agree with us are disagreeing with us, it's usually coming from a place of passion. It's because they care. Whatever it is that they are championing is because they care about that. And I have the ultimate respect for that. I look forward to working together with others. Thank you.
Okay, we have a question from John, who's sharing Heather's iPad tonight. And then Melinda, I see your hand up, so you can take it down. I see you next after that. John?
Thank you. This goes to Jackie. This question, Ms. Collier, you're a very industrious woman. You've outlined your many roles. You're also a mother of 2 young daughters. You've taken on quite a lot. In fact, if I could quote you back to yourself, you said to me at the door, if you want something done, ask a busy person. And that's a good old adage. But the reality is the current sitting counselor here that you're hoping to replace, Mr. Simon Chappelle, I think he's done a fabulous job. I know how hard he's worked, really a good job. And the reason he's leaving is because this so-called
question, where are we coming to a question?
We are coming to a question, yeah. He's leaving because it's gotten to be too heavy. He has other work and he has a family. Some of the staff reports are up to 700 pages. Where do you think really you can find the time to take on this much more work on already a heavy agenda that you have?
Thank you so much for that question. It's so important to ask that kind of question, especially of me, because I'm on like 6 boards and committees. I have vice chairs and vice presidents that are ready to take over for me. As soon as if I were to be elected councillor, I would be focused on that. So all of those boards and committees, which I do simultaneously right now, and I do them extraordinarily well, they all have amazing successes that I could talk on for probably hours. But all of those beautiful committees have prepared me for this role. I love reading. It's one of my favorite things to do. So reading reports does not scare me whatsoever, and I will be able to devote all of my time and attention towards this. And I'm really excited to be able to do that. And not to mention that other councillors, several other councillors, including our current councillor, had worked and done other roles while being on council. So I wouldn't be the first, but certainly I get that question a lot, particularly being a woman with children. That is, I think, something that needs to end soon. We are very capable. And I know for myself personally, oh man, am I ever good at scheduling and time blocking and making time for things that matter and count. And I have always put my community first, always. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Do you want to say anything, Paul, on that area?
Yes, please. I've always put my children first, my family. And I've actually waited to do this. 4 years ago, I wasn't ready. I was still working, only had 27 years in. My children, my youngest was 10. When I went to a school council meeting, I get a text from her half hour in asking me when I was coming home. I said, honey, meeting's just started. You gotta wait another hour. So I waited purposely for the right timing for me to devote 100% to this. My children are always going to be there. If I get a call from them saying I have to come home, well, that's what I'm going to be doing. My family always comes first. But I waited purposely for this. I heard rumors that there are counselors that stay up till 2 o'clock in the morning reading reports. I heard that some don't even read them and they go in blind into a meeting. I don't want to be either one of those. I want to be able to read those reports, and I have the time to do that now with me being retired, my children being older. And with my economics background and my auditing background, I can scroll through these reports. There was one recently for the building project that's proposed for Midland and Tivoli. I read through all those reports before I spoke at that planning committee. And within the traffic study, I noticed an error. Well, I noticed a bunch of concerns, but there was an error within the traffic study that the city staff didn't pick up on. In that report, it stated the city of Ottawa.
15 seconds.
We are not the city of Ottawa. So I mentioned that report is basically null and void. It doesn't matter if that information is correct or not. It stated the city of Ottawa, which called into question all that stats, and they had to redo it. So that's what I bring to this table, and I have the time to do that and make sure that all the reports are correct. Thank you.
Thanks. Melinda.
This question's for Paul. I think you're doing your research incorrectly on the percentage of affordable housing requirements at 25%, which might be the same source of information that you don't know how many schools are being built in Woodhaven. My question is 100 affordable housing units, which is 10 more than the city is currently building on their Princess Street, not better than 0 that are approved today? The provincial requirement for planning is 5%. 25% is the city minimum requirement if they are providing the financing for the development instead of a bank.
Paul?
Well, I get the information. I've been watching committees, meetings that are saved on YouTube, along with other subcommittees. And I watched the recent planning committee in which Lisa Osanek mentioned, they discussed a development on Bath Road across from McEwen. The developer there was providing 25% of the units as affordable housing. And they were not even going to ask the city for the 20% top up. They're going to eat it. That developer is part of the solution, not part of the problem. That's where I'm getting my information from. So Lisa Osanek has been a council for a number of years, a number of terms. I would tend to think she's quite knowledgeable in what it should be provided and what shouldn't be provided. So that's where I'm going with my 25%. Thank you.
Jackie, any thoughts on this?
Oh, I mean, it was specifically addressed to some information that Paul has shared earlier, but I would say that that we absolutely need housing, and that it wasn't only 100 units that would be there. There would have been at the Davis Tannery several hundred, over 1,000. And every single housing matters. When you have a housing crisis and it stems from a lack of supply, you must increase housing overall. It is a critical component to solving the problem, the root of the problem. And so, yes, we must add 100. You know, at the beginning, Ms. Aziz had mentioned about our homelessness situation, and we have approximately 250 people on that list that need housing now. And so if that had been 100 affordable units combined with what we know that we're doing in other areas, I know that I'm working on tiny home projects, so are others. With those of us that are boots on the ground actually trying to get it done, it matters. All of it matters. And to those families that will live there when they have no home, it matters very much. Thank you.
Okay, we've got a few minutes left. I can take maybe one more question. If somebody, perhaps even from outside the district, has a question, or otherwise we'll go to the wrap up by the candidates. Any questions? Okay, so I'm going to give each of the candidates 2 minutes to sum up. And Jackie went first last time, so why don't we say, Paul, you'll go first this time.
Okay. Again, I would like to say thank you to the organizers for setting up this up and for everyone who attended. I just want to close by stating I'm the only candidate who can work full-time as your counselor, listen to your concerns, do the research, and represent a district without any conflicts of interest. I don't rent out, I don't work for the city, and I don't work for a developer. Development is one of the major topics that comes before council. You deserve a councillor who is able to speak to these motions. We need development. However, there needs to be a balance between development, environment, and affordability. The city does not control the price of housing. However, we can approve housing developments in order to increase the supply, which in turn should help reduce the pricing. But we also need communities. Communities, neighborhoods are more than just buildings. Try and get as many buildings into a smallest area possible is not a community. They need parks, areas for neighbors to gather. There needs to be ample parking. There needs to be trees planted. You can't just say you care about a community now when you haven't been making the area a community without these amenities. We also need apartments. However, there needs to be a balance here as well. However, how many trees are being cut down? How many trees are being planted and maintained? How many units are going to be affordable? The city has a requirement of 25% of apartments units to be 80% market value. I don't believe this is being provided by developers. Developers are constantly asking for variances regarding their projects. This is a negotiation. I want to ask developers about the trees and more importantly, the 25% affordable units. If they're not willing to be part of the solution, then maybe the project shouldn't be approved. Kingstonians deserve to have access to affordable housing. And I'm willing to make the hard requests as I don't have any conflicts and it is the correct thing to do. As mentioned in the opening, I've lived in this district for 29 years. I've experienced the growth and the development of this district. I know its history. It's not something you just learn. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Paul. Jackie, last word.
Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody again for being here and to the KCC for arranging this. That is so wonderful. To my constituents, to anybody at home who is watching this either tonight or later because the link will be available, I am listening. I hear you. As I am going to everyone's door, I am listening to what you are telling me. I know that it feels like we're not heard sometimes, and that is so important. The things that you are worried about, the safety of your kids and their friends, of your neighbors, I hear it. Our plans for ensuring that our aging population are cared for, our plans for ensuring that the health of all of our residents across Kingston is cared for, knowing that we need to act on housing affordability, on this housing crisis that we are in. It is urgent. It is an emergency. I hear it all. I am ready to do that work. I have already been a part of doing that work, and this is the next step for me to have a positive impact. I want to do it. I want you to know I'm going to be there for you and that you will always have somebody that you can turn to share your concerns. I am a strong member of our community already. I work so hard at everything I do, and I bring an extremely strong sense of economic development expertise, fiscal responsibility. I am a leader in responsible development, and we need that critical knowledge. This is not something that we can go without any longer. It is necessary. And I am going to ensure that we keep in touch with each other. We will communicate with each other ongoing, and you will always be able to reach out to me. I will make sure that I am leading every single one of you as you want for me to lead. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Jackie.
Thank you.
I'd like to, I guess, close, but with lots of thanks. Thanks for those of you who came out tonight to listen and contemplate your vote and ask questions. One of the advantages of Zoom is for most people, it's not a long drive in the cold to get home, but it still is an effort to come here. So I thank you. I thank Christine and the other organizers for all these debates, all candidates meetings. This is a rich tradition in Kingston. Not every city has such good turnout, such good meetings. So that is, it's really nice that you stepped up to make sure that each district had one. And finally, to the two candidates, I've read some of those reports, and I don't envy the winner. Maybe I envy the loser, but I thank you for stepping up and offering your services to the community and giving us a good choice for the ballots. And for everyone, I've certainly gotten in my house the notice with the advanced polls. There are a lot of times to vote beyond election day, so please get out and vote. Christine, final word.
Yes, I'll just repeat what you've been saying, Harvey. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, candidates Paul and Jackie. Thank you so much, Harvey, for moderating, and wonderful to see, as always, Kingstonians stepping up and engaging on issues that matter. So, best of luck with the election.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you so much.
Bye now.
Have a good night, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.